So it's starting to look like Marathon might not be coming out this year at all. In a brand new presentation, Sony quietly shifted how they're starting to talk about Marathon, and definitely it's starting to look like we won't be seeing it until probably March 2026. But before any panic or anybody just starts to write the game off entirely anyway, let's talk about what was actually said, what it means for Bungie, and probably why it actually might be needed for this game anyway. So this information is coming from a Sony press conference that was written about in 3 articles that I saw from IGN, Games Post, and from Paul Tassie's article from Forbes, all breaking down pretty much what Sony revealed, what it can mean for Marathon's future as well as Sony's games, but we're here mainly for Marathon, and sharing some of my thoughts about the situation and regardless of what I think about it or not. So started off first, what's going on? So in a recent Sony business segment presentation, we saw like a mini interview / questionnaire to Herman Hulst, who was the CEO and head of Sony and like head of PlayStation Studios, so top dog. There he highlighted Marathon as one of Sony's most important and upcoming live service games. He called it an innovative, bold take on the extraction shooter genre, placing it alongside titles like Helldivers 2, which is pretty much PlayStation's probably only real big like live service game out of that like live service batch of titles that they were really trying to push. And while there's been no official confirmation of a delay or anything like yet as of the 14th of the recording, the presentation emphasized a lot of like Sony's fiscal year 2025 slate, which I'll put like a little image on screen here to show what I'm talking about, where they're pretty much essentially saying when these games came out, when they want them to come out, and then like the roadmap for that, right? And as you can see, Marathon is in that fiscal year 2025, which yes, the September date does go up to that, but I think the end of the fiscal year is March 2026. And when Herman Hulst was talking about like Marathon and how their like situation is developing, he didn't necessarily talk about like any of the hardships or things like that, like the plagiarism issue and like pretty much like the negative online sentiment about the game, but he definitely hinted at like the reception that they got from the alpha and the playtest and how they're looking at that and how it was like essentially mixed. And he really hammered down the point of like ongoing testing, iteration, refining the experience, pretty much kind of seeming like it's hinting at like an internal shift maybe to that like 2026 March time, early springtime probably. And if that is the case, I kind of want to talk about why the delay probably and most likely will be a good thing. If Marathon does get pushed back, either because Bungie thinks so or Sony's forcing them to or whatever, probably will be the best move for them long term for the health of the game and probably for Bungie. That's pretty much a given, right? Extra time on the game allows Bungie to pretty much cook up more, refine the core gameplay loop, hopefully be able to nail some of those like lacking areas and features that people were kind of talking about. Like obviously this is not going to be enough time for like them to redefine the entire game, right? It's still going to be an extraction shooter, still going to be PvP, PvPvE, but this might give them time to obviously, for one, really scrub through the art and like not have a whole scenario like that again. Probably refine a couple, maybe 1 or 2 major gameplay like flaw components, maybe. Definitely get a lot of that like visual fidelity stuff back into play, maybe some progression items. There's a lot of things they could really tweak and iron out before if it does get pushed back to March. And one thing for sure, they can definitely like avoid some sort of like Anthem, Cyberpunk, like early days, like busted as fuck game narrative, outside of like the narrative already being bad for the game because people don't like it. I will say though, there is like one big sort of problem that I kind of foresee with a delay that I obviously don't know about. I'm just a guy that's yapping, but kind of just like watching it closely. For one, Bungie has already like downsized, I think like once or twice since being bought out by Sony. I think last year they had 1 or 2 major layoffs and a lot of restructuring over the past year, and that's put a lot of people in like a negative sort of connotation with Bungie as a whole, just even before the whole Marathon situation. And yeah, while a delay might help further the product in a good way, I'm not sure if Bungie will come out of this unscathed if that does happen, because essentially, yeah, you know, like the game gets extra time to cook, but also Bungie isn't making any money from that game, so they're just like burning a hole in the game. And yeah, some people might say, you might be on the fence where it's like, well, it's only a couple months, you know, it's not like a year or 6 months or whatever. If it comes out March, it's pretty much like a 6-month delay, something like that, about a half a year delay. And yeah, that's a lot of time for a game to be just like burning money. And the last thing I want to see is like we get an announcement that they're delaying the game, and then like 2 or 3 months into that delay, it's like, yeah, we also laid off like another 50 or 100 people, and it's like, oh, what the fuck? Well, I don't know, but I could see something like that happening. And if that does happen, obviously there's a bunch of ripple effects that comes from that. First and foremost, right, that's going to like kill morale even further at Bungie, just because, like, you know, people are literally losing their jobs. Obviously it won't be like quantifiable, but for sure it'll negatively impact like the fixing and development of the game even further. And then if that does come out, the public perception is just going to like tank even further, bro. And the last thing that Marathon needs is just like even further negative public reception. And yeah, you can argue like any publicity is good publicity, but like Marathon shit has like pretty much been strictly negative the entire time. I mean, there's been people like me and like some others who are like been voicing their opinions who are like either neutral or even more positive leaning, but more often than not it's pretty much like a negative sort of sentiment because of like not only Marathon not being the game that people want, but also being a part of like that Bungie like narrative, which people already are checked out of. So the last thing that like this game needs is like, yeah, we're getting a delay, which may suck for some people, may be great for some people, but we're also laying off people. I don't know, that just don't seem great. Not saying it'll happen if the game does get delayed, if it doesn't get delayed, whatever, but it's a possibility for sure. And then kind of speaking to that like sort of community sentiment portion, is like, yeah, for a lot of people are like burned by Bungie, bro. A lot of people just, the trust is super shaky for Bungie right now. Even like the Destiny homies are like, I don't know, bro, we'll have to see. I mean, Edge of Fate looks like it's going to be pretty cool. A lot of people are kind of coining it as like D3 almost because of like all the stuff that they're changing. But again, still, it's the proof will be in the pudding, as some would say. Like, it only time will tell. July is coming up pretty soon. The DLC will drop, and then that'll be a whole new narrative around what either Bungie is great, Bungie is ass, whatever. I don't know. But even still, trust in Bungie as a whole is shaky right now. And a successful Marathon launch, even if it's not like the best thing on the planet, it definitely could help to establish some better trust in that area. I mean, obviously the game still won't be for everybody, but you know, if it's not like a shit product, then people will be more inclined to be like, okay, Bungie, let's see what you're working with, versus like, I'm not touching anything else that you're doing at all, right? That can only happen if the release is as polished as it can be, which it definitely won't be if it hits that September date. But it's likely to be more of that if it gets delayed, probably to March. I don't know if this is like PR talk. I mean, it probably, I'm sure a lot of it is PR talk versus like what actual work is being done, because obviously there's like things that have come out on like the Bungie side where it's like things aren't looking so hot right now, things aren't looking great. And then obviously Sony's been kind of quiet on it, and this is like kind of the first we're hearing about them like dropping it by name. And I mean, obviously, yeah, if you're Sony, like, you do want Bungie to, you do want Marathon to succeed, because like you don't want like another money pit to just go nowhere. I mean, I'm gonna have to bring it up just because that's facts at this point. Like, Concord was essentially like a big ass money pit. Regardless of how you feel about the game or meme it, whatever, like statistically, like I think the game was in development for 6 years or 7 years, and it sold like shit. So just a big money sink, and the last thing they want is another back-to-back money sink, regardless of if it's better or worse than Concord, whatever the fuck, right? That's just the last thing Sony wants to do. So clearly Sony sees some potential. How much? Not too sure, but enough to like hopefully keep it going and not pull the plug yet. But obviously as players, we're waiting to see like what the actual game will be and what the actual progress that we can get our hands on and actually mess around with will be, which I mean, at the time of recording, it's still September, but who knows? Fucking tomorrow they can come out and be like, yeah, we're delaying it. You know, get one of those long ass, like, you know, we really appreciate everybody, blah, 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 but we're delaying the game to blank. And again, just like I said, as some final thoughts, as of this recording, the 14th, there's been no official delay announcement or anything like that, but signs are kind of pointing that way. I mean, pretty much industry veterans, from people in Bungie to pretty much everybody in between, is like, this game definitely needs to be delayed. Again, it looks like Sony's going that way. I said this before in a couple videos where I was like, hey, if Sony will give it to them, please take it, or if they're forcing it, please do it, because I'd rather give them more time to cook than less, at least like for that initial out the gate, like for first impression, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, but that's where I'm at. But I will definitely be watching closely for any next Bungie dev updates or any PlayStation updates regarding Marathon specifically. I mean, that September date's getting closer and closer regardless, so we'll have to see what's happening. But until then, hey, we're just gonna keep our eyes open. Here's kind of hoping for a delay if confirmed soon, just to, you know, pretty much prioritize quality, give the Bungie people some time to cook and get themselves together, and not have to like rush a game out just because I think that's really the last thing that Marathon needs and Bungie needs. But we'll see. Hey, y'all let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Does Marathon need to be delayed? Do you think it'll be fine? Leave your comments down below. Please be civil. I'm just trying to have a good conversation. That's about it. I know, regardless if you're one way or the other, let's just have a good conversation. That's all I got. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like down below. And if you want to see if you want to see more of your boy, or more video game updates, talks, discussions, things of that nature, then be sure to hit that red subscribe button down below. And until then, I catch y'all in the next one.